Okay, everyone, welcome to our webinar and Agile Transformation case study. I'm very pleased to welcome Giles Lindsay from the UK. Giles is Director of Software Engineering at dnata, which is part of the Emirates dnata group. I met Giles a few years ago, and Giles is one of those people who not only gets from Agile, but he's passionate about it. And I was very fortunate last fall to see him do a talk about his favorable experiences in several locations, several case studies implementing Disciplined Agile. So I saw him do a similar talk at the Agile Business Conference in London, and I'm thrilled that he's agreed to do this kind of a talk for us today. So welcome, Giles. Take it away.
Thanks very much, and thanks, Mike. Thank you, everybody, for turning up today. One of the things I obviously want to sort of set just the scene for this. This is a story. I'm not one of these experts, as many of you guys are, in terms like Mark and Scott. Yes, I have been on that sort of DA journey now for some time, since really about 2013 in process, and I'm now with my fourth organization trying to do a DA transformation. I want to talk today, just as I say, storytelling more than anything else. It's what I'm passionate about, sort of sharing some of the anecdotes and the things that I've done with the team and the sort of the transformations carried out across my last place, and then how that's kind of leading into doing it at Emirates dnata. So I will I'll click on. So this is me. I think the cartoon's certainly a lot better looking. In my 26th year now, working as a software engineer, as Mark says, Director of Software Engineering at dnata, part of the Emirates dnata group. I'm lucky and fortunate to be a double fellow, and I've sort of been through the mill in doing certified Scrum Master courses, Product Owner courses, BA courses, Disciplined Agile courses, and very proud and lucky to be part of the Advisory Council for DA as well. So the case study itself and what it is all about. So the case study revolves around, obviously, the Agile Transformation, first and foremost, at a company called Tungsten Network, which is a Fintech company in literally near enough as damn it in the centre of London, UK, and using DA and the achievements of that sort of business over its first 12 to 18 months after being put in place and was being used in practice. So I arrived at the organization in July 2016. And obviously, as you are always given the chance to do, to get your feet under the table and sort of learn and look at what's going on, I was given 90 days to sort of get up to speed with a plan as to how we were going to transform the organization. But that also meant that I had to retrospectively look back at the first 6 months of 2016 to understand what had been developed and delivered, what hadn't been, what the impediments were, what was working well, what wasn't, and sort of use that as my starting point. So I spent the next 3 months, as I said, with all the teams globally, and that's teams in the US, Bulgaria, Philippines, and the UK as well, introducing the framework, the development governance, the portfolio management, everything else, the agile project management, all the right support tools, proper ticket management, etc., and put this into place. A year after that began, we smashed a KPI, and we'll sort of talk about how we got there. That was set back in September 2016, delivering over 100 programs of work in under 12 months, being able to understand the cost of each and the return on investment to those 100 programs of work. This is the sort of the route of delivery over that period of time, between obviously the beginning of Jan 2016 up until the end of 2017 and beyond to February 2018, just under 12 months ago. And as you can see, I joined obviously in July 2016, and there had been 3 deliverables at that point in time in process. And once we had actually spent the first 3 months going through doing all the sort of the DA training, upskilling, building in the psychological safety, recreating the teams into the right order that they should be, getting the right staff on board as well, we actually, in near enough 1 month, delivered the same amount of work in terms of sort of lines of code and the output and the return on investment in September of 2016 as we had done in the first 6 months, or the company had done in the first 6 months of that year. And then it was the journey onwards, taking the deliverables onwards and upwards up until the end of February 2018, where we have some stats where in that month we actually delivered 26 projects into production. We had changed the average of month releases from 0.25 to just over 12. We had obviously delivered 109 projects into production in the first year. And by the time February came along, we had actually delivered over 220. So the number was actually going further and further uphill. So on arriving, and hopefully you'll start seeing synergy between this and the transformation here at dnata shortly. It really was kind of a basis of JFDI, he or she who shouted loudest, aspirationally tried to get that work done, and it wasn't actually getting work done. As it says, it was simply just attention diversion, and it was the highest paid person's opinion every time in terms of what priorities we worked on. 3 project releases in the first 6 months, no core platform releases for 15 months had taken place at that point in time, and with lots of organizations going through this sort of level of churn and change, high attrition rates. So the 90-day plan that I sort of came through was first off to understand the technology, the environment, and the estate. And that was to look at all the teams globally to understand what technology stacks they're using, what's their intake process, how are they actually using processes, agile or otherwise, what are their ticketing systems, what are their release deployment processes and practices as well. And it was really trying to get the engineering managers to create me sort of PowerPoints that I could understand and take away to look at synergies of leveraging what works the best in each of these teams to try and share that across the rest of the organization, which hadn't been done previously to that point. It was also assessing the current situation, wanting these quick releases. So we knew we had, why I was hired essentially, to bring about this sort of agile transformation, to start bringing around these changes and not having to wait 15 months for something to be delivered. Building the right team foundations, very key in terms of actually hiring delivery managers, BAs, QAs, augmenting the developers we had on and offshore within any of our sites. We didn't have the right people in process to support us, so we had to make sure we had to go out and hire the people to come on board and join us on the journey. And then it was all about implementing the right tools and processes. And of course, having been on that sort of enterprise, agile IT exposure for many years, knowing that DA was going to be the right thing that we had to put in place to support us, especially in that geo-distributed environment of having teams globally trying to share the results and the outcomes of those solutions together. We also introduced the Agile PMO, and something that we called either the exec team prioritization meeting or the technical steering committee. And this was all about actually stopping the JFDI, stopping the hippos, and actually getting the executive team sat in a room together to make sure that they're working on priorities together as a team and not having individuals trying to shout over the top of one another, making challenges and changes, which actually was part of the game changer and part of the big jigsaw puzzle moments that suddenly really worked for the organization. We created all of our portfolio view. So going back and absolutely retrospectively capturing everything that was going on in the organization at that point in time, having a snapshot of what we should all be working on. But the point was, as it suddenly says, 50 plus projects at this time were canned. And they would have previously been worked on because, of course, it was simply this JFDI, he or she who shouts loudest would get the work done. And we realized it was actually adding a no benefit accrual into the organization, no ROI. If you remember, I just previously talked about only 3 programs of work having been delivered in the first 6 months of that year. And I went back and did a retro over the top of it, looking at what information I could garner out of JIRA and the information. And we actually found that one of those 3 programs, we had actually made a $15,000 loss on in terms of our solution delivery from idea to value, which obviously is just, not acceptable when we should be working on those things which are going to generate us the best return on investment and the best benefit accrual across any of our solution deliveries. So again, first milestone, September 2016, the teams delivered 3 projects for 3 different products. And that's the same amount of technical delivery that had been achieved in the first 8 months by that point in time of 2016. We set ourselves then a KPI of delivering 35 projects in just 1 year and setting ourselves the goal. So we thought we would challenge ourselves by 10-folding what had been delivered in the first 6 months of that year. We started maturing the processes, and we started building a good steady pace and introducing continual improvements. We started empowering individuals to take over. Obviously, there had been previously a lot of micromanagement that was happening within the organization, and we realized that, again, that was unsustainable and needed to stop. I ended up being able to sort of do my job properly, managing by exception, sorting the impediments, removing the friction, and allowing the teams to get on and deliver the awesome work that they needed to do. We also had to start focusing on building a proper product team. Things that were missing in process, as I say, the team members, helping make sure they were capturing the right requirements so that we delivered the right things, and starting to mature the process into that self-organizing department, which it eventually became. Over the next 9 months, we continually worked collaboratively to improve the capability in everything we delivered in any of the 4 sites globally. We made sure month on month looked better. And one of the things we started doing was we started making sure that the entire organization recognized how technology was helping change the culture within the organization. One of the things I did in, I think, my 2nd week within the organization, I arrived and it was still suits and shirts and ties in the city of London for engineers and BAs and the QA family as well. And what I did was I went to the CEO and just basically said, that's got to change. We've got to make a more informal, more relaxed, more agile working environment. And so the following day, it was a case of literally everybody's being able to turn up in smart casual, jeans, T-shirts and other things else, which again just started showing how the culture was changing. The rest of the company obviously started feeling a little bit aggrieved that they were still wearing suits, and about a month later a company edict went out that everybody could wear the same as long as they weren't customer facing at that point in time. And again, we were starting to change some of the fundamentals at the organization from a technology and team culture perspective as well. And we were able to ultimately, as we got better and more mature with our processes, started experimenting with how we actually apply the DA processes to the teams and what fitted best where. Fast forward a year to September 2017, and we smashed the KPI of 35 projects that had been originally set. We delivered 109. We delivered major customer projects for Apple, Unilever, and other sort of tier 1 customers. But more importantly, we revitalized and inspired a technology team, losing only 1 developer in 21 months with natural attrition from an overall team of 130 plus engineers, QAs, etc. The team in its total size was about 180. This was a snapshot from the CTO at Tungsten, talking about introducing DA to the organization, transforming the rate and quality of the deliverables. As it says, this month, February, saw 18 major deliverables, including a new transactional network upgrade, new countries online, a new worldwide VoIP platform, and analytics for 250,000 customers. And talking specifically around the fact that I've worked in many organizations, from small startups to the world's largest enterprises. Never before have I witnessed an entire executive get together in those technical steering committees for a minimum of 1 hour each week to review technology priorities and progress, not to mention 3-day away days and monthly board sessions. Organizations would kill to get this level of engagement. That's nice for him to say so. So This then very leads on to why I was then asked a couple of years later, after having joined Tungsten and setting them off on a path of transformation and being able to deliver things, to join dnata as Director of Software Engineering there, where my passion is all about the engineering side of things. And obviously joined here in June of 2018. And again, I was kind of given some reasons around why we needed to do this transformation right from the get-go. And so this again was kind of set in stone for me as the things that the business wanted to sort of change, and what they'd seen from previous organizations. And obviously the last place was transformation number 3, and dnata for me is the 4th organization I've been doing this at. So to better manage geo-distributed teams, dnata has teams in the UK, Russia, India, and Dubai. So part of my remit is looking after the engineering family in all of those countries, and I have been to all of them several times to obviously do the training, roll out the processes, support them, give them guidance, and to make sure that we're underway on the transformation. To enhance ability to manage changing priorities, enhance delivery predictability, enhance software quality and security, improve business IT alignment, very key, because a lot of the organizations that I've been joining have always sort of been technology-led and not product-focused-led or business solution-led. So for us, it's very key that we actually get that business IT alignment very close. Improve engineering discipline, that's very key to my heart. Improve project visibility, improve team morale, increase productivity, increase that maintainability, reduce the project risk, and reduce project cost. So, you've seen the pictures before. Arriving at dnata, similar challenges. There again, and many organizations are very similar. It was very much JFDI and very much the HIPPO. Slight differences for them and some of the challenges. No consistent view of priorities or how to prioritize. Teams delivering less by trying to deliver too much in parallel. Harder to maintain quality as teams and systems are scaled. Hard to align efforts across teams. Not able to measure how effective the teams are. The organization used JIRA here for 8 to 10 years, but never used it effectively to get any form of metrics, forecasting, predictability coming out of this. So again, starting from scratch with the implementation of what we're trying to do, and reliance on key teams and individuals which were slowing down delivery. No knowledge transfer taking place. One of the key things and key themes that I took away after visiting the office in Bangalore was very much the teams there wanting knowledge transfer and more to feel more integrated and playing a bigger part in what the teams in Dubai and Russia and the UK were doing. And so, of course, that meant actually making sure we didn't have those reliance on those key teams and individuals anymore. So again, those same similar challenges came about. Needing to do exactly the same in the first 3 months across all the sites and the 17 teams, 12 teams at my last place, 17 teams here at dnata, understanding that technology environment, assessing the current situation, this time requiring closer stakeholder and sponsor involvement in defining value, focus, and priorities as we implement all of this. Reducing our work in process to actually increase delivery. What happens, and what I've seen many times in my career, has been a case of when the executive function believe they are not getting the right amount of work coming out of the bottom end of the delivery, they try and cram too much up in the top end, and that actually causes a massive bottleneck, and the executive function do not get actually the things of value that need to change and support the organization and deliver value. So actually reducing the amount that goes in the hopper at the top actually creates a fatter pipeline at the bottom, and we start actually delivering the value and actually getting that return on investment or that benefit accrual that the business actually start needing to see. Again, build those team foundations. Get those same people. It seems, again, many of these enterprise IT organizations are missing the key people to actually support us on that journey of actually delivering the right things. Building that multidisciplined team to focus on those business domains and not the technical solutions, not having technology-led solutions which do not delight our customers and our stakeholders at the end of the day. And then obviously implementing the right tools and processes so that we can start that sort of digital, agile technology and cultural transformation that needs to happen here at dnata as well, by bringing about the start of introducing DA to all of the organization. Again, implementing exactly the same functions and features, the Agile PMO and our technical steering committee. And again, it's amazing that a lot of the people and a lot of the executive team really want to support us on this initiative. And I am supported first and foremost by the CEO, my own boss, the CTO of the entire dnata group. They actually want to make sure that we are being supported in this initiative. And it's great to see that we're getting top-down support, not trying to push it as a bottom-up initiative to the executive team. But they're also in agreement that they need to obviously get into rooms together to agree on those priorities together. Because of the sort of the finite resource we have, it's not going to deliver everything they want all at the same time. We obviously need that consistent way of working and reporting our progress with using tools like Jira as well, right the way across the board in all of the countries I previously mentioned. We have to go and do exactly the same thing. I need to go and actually do a retrospective capture, because on arrival, it was this initiative of projects aspirationally asked for in an Excel spreadsheet. And that didn't tie back to any of the demand of the work in any part of process across any of the teams and how they were delivering and what they should be delivering on where the focus should be. So again, having to go back and do this retrospective capture. And then again, we haven't yet finished that triage of the projects that have to stop. But it's all about making sure that we're working on the right thing, which leads to our mission statement. So I created this mission statement about 3 months in when I arrived at dnata, working on the right thing at the right cost, at the right speed, with the right people. And this was literally because it seemed that we were working on completely the opposite of all of these points. We seemed to be working on the wrong thing. Things were, cost overrun was huge. It was all at the wrong speed because there was no process supporting, and it very much was JFDI at the time. And we, as it says, with the right people, we didn't have the right people in process. I even had one-man team, apparently, running his work off of 3 backlogs. Now, I have no idea what process he was following. It was like he was making up what his homework should be, writing his own homework, marking his own homework, giving himself an A+ for his own homework every time. And actually, it was probably more like an unclassified U, because once these things were going into production, these things were inevitably failing because it hadn't obviously been tested and hadn't actually met a definition of done in terms of process. So our dnata Agile Transformation that we sort of kicked off was sort of made up of many parts. You're reviewing, reflecting, repeating from the previous sort of 12 to 18 months, the final stages of what we were doing at our last organization. In this process as well, 6 of my old team and the full spectrum of engineering, quality assurance, business analysis, product, etc., have joined me at dnata from my last company, because they loved the idea of going from this sort of the transformation from sort of chaos to having a team, as I think I said at the conference, sort of delivering like a Formula 1 pit stop team, and wanted to come and do this journey again and be part of the transformation here at dnata as well. We're rolling out the transformation in UK, Dubai, Russia, and India. And I think, I may be wrong, but I sort of tried to ask Mark when I caught up with him last, whether it was the sort of the first official full sort of company-wide DA transformation in Russia, and I think it was. I don't know about India or Dubai. It possibly could be for Dubai. I have no idea. But if anyone's doing it in these other countries as well, please let me know, because of course it would be great to tie up other organizations, especially at conferences in those countries, where people can get together and share their experiences and learnings as well. It's all about building that culture of this and the mindset, as well as simply just doing it for the organization that I'm working within. Doing the work that actually matters, doing less possibly. I think this is fundamentally key as well. We seem to, as I said, always cram too much into the hopper at the top end. And actually, in fact, we're getting very little out the bottom end, because things inevitably stop, cease, crack, don't deliver, have impediments because they're not properly planned, don't go through that inception phase in the DA framework, which is absolutely key to us making a success, proving that architecture early, phases and steps like that. So I think this was key, and actually trying to strip back the number of projects that we should be working on in the first year here at dnata is fundamentally key to us actually getting a transformation graph, very much like at my last place. Changing the management culture to be more agile as well. And that's sort of management culture right the way across the organization, from finance and HR, as well as obviously at the executive team level as well. And I think with some of the other, obviously, elements now of the DA framework going to support us in those other areas of the organization in terms of trying to sort of roll out DA across the entire estate, I think that's the journey that's going to excite me as we go forward over the next 12 to 24 months. Work smarter and never harder. This is a great one. I previously had a CEO who in a meeting turned around and said he hated this anecdote line of working smarter and never harder. He wants all the teams to work harder and never smarter. I think the following day he had his first round of resignations. 3 people resigned the following day afterwards. It isn't the case of doing this. It is finding unique propositions and way that we can work smarter to actually deliver the right thing for our customers, working at the right cost, at the right speed, with the right people per our mission statement. Then starting to mature stuff in process, especially in the transition phase, which is why it's really key and fundamental for what we're trying to achieve. Introducing automation tooling, deployment pipeline, obviously bringing about that DevOps culture as well. We're starting that with the architecture piece and getting that explicit nature by calling out the fact we need architecture up front, proving that architecture early in the inception, and actually needing obviously all of this tooling and deployment pipeline piece in our transition phase as well. Adjusting how the company funds its initiatives as well. We obviously have lots of brands within the organization, 22 sub-brands within the Emirates dnata group, all of them sort of vying for some of the outcomes and deliverables in some of our solutions, wanting to use them. And so we actually got to make sure that we fund these things right with the support of those brands and parts of the business to help us make sure, again, we're working on the right thing, on the right priorities for our stakeholders. Allocate the resources to manage the complexity. Do that regular refactoring and re-architecting as well, so that we can start making sure that we're thinking about technical debt as we're on our journey, and that we can also be thinking about making sure that we're thinking about our scalability horizontally and vertically. It's not just a case of doing work which is just code churn for the sake of doing code churn and sort of creating bloatware within our code stack at the end of the day. Putting people first. The right people to do absolutely fundamentally key. So we have hired a lot of people in the sort of first 7-8 months while I've been at dnata to sort of plug the gap, which has been awesome to see, and the fact that the business are fully supportive of this as well. And to improve fixed parts of the business factory, that limit how successfully we as an Agile team, as an Agile function, as a technology group, which is currently sat somewhere at about 215 to 220 people, so a lot larger than what I had at my last place. And as I said, going from 12 teams to 17 teams is obviously something that we look at all the time to improve, removing those impediments, looking at the process challenges we have while we roll the processes out and support the teams. So, sort of a final touch point. I've kind of flown through some of the activities that we've been doing. I always put this one up, keep calm and thank you for listening. As I said, today for me it's been more about storytelling than and the journey that I've been on and with my teams and sort of my work family members that have come on that journey with me from organization to organization as they enjoy the challenge of the transformation at hand. That is the sort of the stuff that we've been doing. And as I always say with any of my presentations, it's never the end, it's always the beginning. So I hope some people get an insight as just to some of the things that not only what we've been doing at the previous place, but also at dnata, and the transformation is only at the beginning. As I've said many times to Mark and others, I think on our journey from A to Z, I think we're probably at B. We've still got a long way to go, especially with a lot more sort of challenges and process improvements across larger parts of the factory estate. So I hope it's been an informative story today, and thank you very much for everybody's time.
Thank you so much, Giles. That was very informative. You know, it's one thing to hear from, you know, Scott and I and others, but to hear it from somebody who's been in there in the trenches and lived it for several years at different locations is another thing. So thank you so much.